Welcome back to a chapter a day. Happy Wednesday, midweek. Yay! Halfway through the week. For those of you who are working, for me, I just go one day at a time because my routines are really consistent from day to day. Seeing I'm not out in the workplace anymore. That may change, but for now, it's good as it is. Yesterday we read 1 Samuel chapter 18, and we saw where let's see, how Saul was seeking to kill David. After the women were singing and praising David as to him killing 10,000 and Saul 10,000, Saul was not happy with David. The evil spirit that they said came upon him um, would be plaguing him, and he would be on a mission to have David killed. So what he did was, after he promised his daughter to whoever killed Goliath the giant, he took his first daughter and gave her to someone else, and then his second daughter, he realized she had a liking for David, so he told David he would let him have her at a price of 100 Philistine foreskins. Now, David didn't even feel himself worthy to marry a king's daughter, but the servants and, Saul kept, telling him, yes, it's okay, go right ahead. And he went ahead. He and some other soldiers went out and they slew 200 Philistines and cut off their foreskins. You know what the foreskin is. And they took it back to Saul, and Saul, let's see, and Saul, he did, okay, but what was on Saul's mind was that he was planning or hoping during the whole process of David retrieving these 100 foreskins that he would be killed. That was his main aim for asking David to do this feat. So when David came back, he realized, he had to give his daughter to David. He didn't have to, but he did. And Saul knew from then on that David was working, God was working with David, I should say. Okay, so let's keep reading on. And he was afraid of David. And that's the thing, because the evil in him can detect the good in David. And yet, like, he was beyond control. He just had to keep going, seeking David's life. Chapter 19. And Saul spake to Jonathan his son and to all his servants that they should kill David. But Jonathan, Saul's son, delighted much in David. And Jonathan told David, saying, Saul my father seeketh to kill thee. Now therefore I pray thee, take heed to thyself until the morning, and abide in a secret place and hide thyself. And I will go out and stand beside my father in the field where thou art, and I will commune with my father of thee, and what I see, that I will tell thee. And Jonathan spake good of David unto Saul his father, and said unto him, Let not the king sin against his servant against David, because he hath not sinned against thee, and because his works have been to thee ward very good. For he did put his life in his hand and slew the Philistine, and the Lord wrought a great salvation for all Israel. Thou sawest it, and didst rejoice. Wherefore then wilt thou sin against innocent blood to slay David without a cause? So this is Jonathan talking to his father to see what the consensus of his thinking or his mind is, so he can let David know whether or not he needs to run and hide. Because now David has been brought to Saul's palace. He's marrying Saul's daughter, so he's even more accessible for Saul to kill. Verse 6. And Saul hearkened unto the voice of Jonathan, and Saul sware, As the Lord liveth, he shall not be slain. And Jonathan called David, and Jonathan showed him all those things. And Jonathan brought David to Saul, and he was in his presence as in times past. And there was war again, and David went out and fought with the Philistines, and slew them with a great slaughter, and they fled from him. And the evil spirit from the Lord was upon Saul as he sat in his house with his javelin in his hand, and David played with his hand. And Saul sought to smite David even to the wall with the javelin. But he slipped away out of Saul's presence, and he smote the javelin into the wall. And David fled and escaped that night. Okay, so I'm going to say this. That's the second time Saul tried to kill David. Just in yesterday's chapter, we see he did the same thing, javelin in his hand. The evil spirits are bothering his brain. So David is playing the harp and he throws the javelin, trying to kill David. And here he does it again. Honestly, all I need is one time. But he's the king, and if he calls for David to be in his presence, I guess David wants to obey. So that's strike two. Okay, David escaped. Verse 11. Saul also sent messengers unto David's house to watch him and to slay him in the morning. And Michal, David's wife, told him, saying, If thou save not thy life tonight, tomorrow thou shalt be slain. So Michal led David down through a window, and he went and fled and escaped. And Michal took an image and laid it in the bed, and put a pillow of goat's hair for his bolster, and covered it with a cloth. And when Saul sent messengers to take David, she said, He is sick. And Saul sent the messengers again to see David, saying, Bring him up to me in the bed, that I may slay him. Now, Lord, have mercy. Saul's madness is just out of control, and he cannot see reasoning. He seemed to be listening to Jonathan when Jonathan first said, David did you nothing. He conquered the Philistines. Why are you trying to kill him? He seemed to be listening to reason then. But then when whatever gets into his head, he just goes berserk and goes back on his word. So David's wife heard of what Saul was plotting. He was sending people to David's house even because David fled from his presence. I tell you, the first time, that was it for me. I wasn't going back. And maybe that's why David really didn't want to marry his daughter, because he would have been in too much of a close proximity with this crazy man. So, but here he is. He's running for his life now. Saul is sending people after him. His wife had to let him down through a window so that they didn't find him when they came, and she dressed up the bed. I've seen this in movies. That's maybe where they got the idea, first of all. Hey. Anyway, women can be very theatrical, okay? So she put the image in the bed, and when they came, they thought it was him, and she said he was sick, so they left him alone. But Saul sent them again the next time, and he said, Bring him in the bed. That's just to tell you, he meant to kill David. All right, verse 16. And when the messengers were come in, behold, there was an image in the bed with a pillow of goat's hair for his bolster. And Saul said unto Michal, Why hast thou deceived me so, and sent away mine enemy that he is escaped? And Michal answered Saul, He said unto me, Let me go, why should I kill thee? So David fled and escaped, and came to Samuel to Ramah, and told him all that Saul had done to him. And he and Samuel went and dwelt in Naioth. And it was told Saul, saying, Behold, David is at Naioth in Ramah. And Saul sent messengers to take David. And when they saw the company of the prophets prophesying, and Samuel standing as appointed over them, the Spirit of God was upon the messengers of Saul, and they also prophesied. I always find this is so strange. Once they come into the presence of prophets prophesying, it seems the Spirit catches on to whoever is there, and they too prophesy. In my country, we have a thing called catching the Spirit. And I think in some churches today, they have something similar where they become spirited. I don't know how else to say it. I don't want to say possessed, but But this was of the Holy Spirit. And now, oh my gosh, Saul is leaving no stone unturned to catch and kill David. His daughter is like a page from his book. She's telling lies, of course. Maybe she's afraid of her crazy dad, because Saul is out to kill anybody who maybe is trying to protect David. So when he asked her why he said, You deceived me so. Because he was hoping maybe that she would, be on his side. But she loved David. So she said, well, it's in other words, he threatened to kill me. Okay? So that was not true, I'm sure. But anyway. Saul has run to Samuel for help. Poor guy. I mean, think about it. Somebody's chasing you for your life, and he has soldiers who can come after you to kill you. That is a scary thing. As a young man, mercy. But you know what? God's hand of protection was over him. Well, we'll see later on. Verse 21. And when it was told Saul, he sent other messengers, and they prophesied likewise. And Saul sent messengers again the third time, and they prophesied also. Then went he also to Ramah, and came to a great well that is in Secu. And he asked and said, where are Samuel and David? And one said, behold, they be at Naioth in Ramah. And he went thither to Naioth in Ramah, and the Spirit of God was upon him also, and he went on, and prophesied until he came to Naioth in Ramah. And he stripped off his clothes also, and prophesied before Samuel in like manner, and lay down naked all that day and all that night. Wherefore they say, is Saul also among the prophets? I don't know how to really to make light of this one. So after Saul has sent 3 sets of messengers to get David from Samuel in the presence of Samuel the prophet, Samuel and other prophets, maybe they're prophesying. Now, I am not quite sure what they mean by prophesying. Maybe they are giving, like, they're preaching and saying things, about God's, I don't know if it's like a praising God or what, but they say they were prophesying. Even the messengers caught on to whatever was happening through God's Spirit, and they too prophesied. Then Saul himself went, and when he came up to Samuel and David, he caught the Spirit also from God, and he too started to prophesy. Stripped off his clothes. Now, I can't understand why you have to strip off his clothes. I say something. I always remark, someone who has a spirit, an evil spirit on them, just seek to be without clothes. I can't understand why. I always go back to Eden. The first thing God did for Adam and Eve when he found them after they sinned was to put clothes on them. The first thing they noticed after they had sinned was that they were not wearing clothing or naked. That's why every time I hear about someone stripping themselves naked, I think it is because there is an evil spirit on them. Sometimes, I'm not talking about little children. Babies are born and we get them acclimated to wearing clothing. But I'm talking about grown-ups, adults, who are always stripping themselves down naked. I don't know, it's something ain't right there. But anyway, that's just my opinion. All right, so that's it for our reading of 1 Samuel chapter 19. So Saul is pursuing David relentlessly to kill him, but God is protecting him, even to the point where he has Saul filled with his spirit and prophesying among the prophets till Saul falls asleep while prophesying. It's rather weird. Every time I read this portion of the chapter, I just think it's kind of odd. But that's it for today. Interesting reading. I'm telling you all. Best book to read. It's still the bestseller of any book till up to today. Still the best-selling book, the Bible. So I thank you all for listening and pray that you continue to be blessed by something you hear, or your brain or your mind is, piqued by something that you have heard, some thought that you had while you heard what was read. So then, until our next reading, remember, faith comes by the hearing of God's word. Until then, keep listening. Bye.